Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is April 29th, 2026. Happy birthday, Brother Rick. This is a conservative-leaning podcast. I do take facts in to make my comments and opinions. I'm a Federalist, a Republican, not a MAGA. And I will say, when I feel the Republicans go off center, leaning one way or the other, or actually going over the rails. I have no problem saying that. Just to clarify, I don't agree with everything that the Republicans are doing, and I never disagreed with everything that prior Democratic administrations did. I mean, a good idea is a good idea no matter where it comes from, as long as it conforms to laws or making it a law. So, my issue with the Democrats, they're not enforcing the laws. They're using our legal system as if it was a cafeteria, picking and choosing what they want. And it doesn't work that way, folks. I mean, you could say that happens all the time, that's both parties have done it. I'll agree with that. It doesn't make it right, though. And you get called out when you do it. So let's move on. This is episode 63. That just means that this is 63 podcasts I have done since January 1st, 2026. All right. I can't get over, and I will, but I won't get over it. But I'll move on. But no, I probably won't. But disgusting Cory Booker, and really just the outright disgusting Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader of the House of Representatives. Cory Booker, of course, senator from New Jersey. He made comments last week that I feel might have inspired Cole Allen to do what he did. And a lot of the people that listen to Cory Booker and the Democrats are weak-minded individuals to begin with. I mean, 80-year-old blue hair congresspeople who don't know the laws that their committee is supposed to be enforcing, and then telling a witness that she's tired of hearing their BS when he pointed out the law and what she didn't know, and she didn't care. I don't care about the law. So it's weak-minded people. It's a weak-minded party that will go out and commit crimes. And Cory Booker had said he needed foot soldiers to go out there and fight for democracy. And again, folks, we're not a democracy. We're a republic with democratic principles, but we're not a democracy. Some people might argue with me on that. They look up what's the difference between a democracy and what is a republic. A democracy is mob rule. And you might not say, well, that's not a mob. No, it's a mob rule where we elect representatives who take on legislation and make sure people follow the Constitution. And not today, this is what I want, and tomorrow it's something else. It doesn't work that way. See, that's mob rule. And that's why I said we're not a mob rule. So I hope that clarifies it for some people. I do appreciate when people leave comments to me. No matter what the comment is, I will answer it. And I'll do it as politely as I can, even if they might not be polite or civil. And I'm not talking about Bob in New York. Bob is always civil and very thorough in his questioning. So I appreciate that. And I don't mind being called out when I'm wrong. If you point out something that I said that is not correct, I will look at it and see what I had said. And if it's wrong, I'll tell you right then and there. And if it's a big wrong, then I'll mention it back on the next day or my next show. So, all right. So we in the media today. Like I said, we have Jeffries who says, I don't care what Democrats say about the shooting. Don't care. And that's the problem with the Democrats right now. So honestly, they don't care about what's going on around them. They're just clawing to try to, whatever power they still have, trying to hold on to it. And trying to derail President Trump's agenda, which the American voters voted him in for. So the Democrats, of course, playing the crybaby and, playing the victim card all the time instead of just doing what they need to do. And so you have, your disgusting Cory Booker comments and you're absolutely off the rails, insane Hakeem Jeffries. He should be removed. He should be removed for what he had spoken. They shouldn't have him there. They shouldn't have now Schumer, and I say this, and how many shows have people heard me say this? I like Schumer. I liked him. He was a guy that could get things done. When things got jammed up, he knew how to walk that aisle and go, hey, boom, bang, go on the other side and come back. But the Democrats lost in 2024 for the simple fact that they had been turning left. And the American voters were seeing what was happening and said no. No. So they changed the landscape. A red House of Representatives with a red Senate and a red president. You think the Democrats would go, all right, where did we miss the mark with the voters? Where and what do we need to do to get back on a course that can get us back into power? And so what do? They turn further left. Who is driving this? Who is saying that this is the right thing that they should be doing? I mean, I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And, you're not saying, hey, okay, abandon everything that you stood for, because then you're disingenuous. But the reality is that you have to make a course correction. What do I have to do just to get that 1 or 2 degrees back to the other side to win? And if you're not in power, then your agenda is meaningless. And if you don't have a plan to get back into power, and you're using the same roadmap and playbook you used that got you out of power, how is this possible? Who's making these decisions? It just doesn't make sense. You have Representative Crocket saying that yeah, she's this shooting was bad, but could it possibly been staged or allowed? What type of craziness is coming from this party? You have AOC who said, well, Trump now is saying this is why he needs his ballroom, so that, you could have, security and things. And that, well, yeah, if he had this in a facility that could handle a crowd, you'd have the military there, you'd have more Secret Service, you'd have FBI, you'd have a lot of more local police. You have everything at the White House, which is, pretty locked down to begin with. And for her to question that, and the building that they took down was falling apart. It probably didn't need much more help in knocking it down. And yes, he's using donations and stuff to rebuild it, as he's claiming. So it's not costing the taxpayers any money. And it's actually going to make it safer for the next president. And that next president could be a Democrat. So why are they getting so upset about this? Why is the ballroom becoming their focal point where immigration isn't? Where funding for Medicare and Medicaid is taking a back seat to the ballroom. And you can say, no, they're fighting. This is what they wanted. Well, I spoke to someone the other night about that. And I said, if the Democrats were so truly concerned about funding, why did they allow all the illegals in here that it's costing us billions? If we had a border, if we had made sure that the people that were coming in were the people that were supposed to be coming in and met the criteria for immigration, we wouldn't be spending billions in taking care of them and then billions in finding out who they are and weeding out the ones that shouldn't be here. That money could have been used for schools, could have been used for tuitions, could have been used for medical, could have been used for health care. But no, it has to be diverted, and that pot is only so big. So the Democrats, the idea is, well, we'll just tax the rich. Well, they're already being taxed at a proportionate rate that everyone else is. Oh, well, they have all these loopholes. Well, those loopholes were created by Congress. Go in and change them. You don't like it? Go in and change it. But in the meantime, those are what they're allowed to use. And this is this big circle you get back to. And it's the responsibility of the elected officials to do their job. And the key is elected. If you're not elected, you could say whatever the hell you want to say. Doesn't matter. And if you're not able to work with the other side, and this goes for Republicans too, then you're not doing your job either. It's not just the Democrats when it comes to bipartisanship. The whole word is bipartisanship. You don't want to do your job. But when the Democrats make ridiculous things that have hurt this country economically, security-wise, and safety-wise, and they want the same stuff that they've been doing that they want you to agree with, no. You lost because of that. And telling them no is not a punishment. It's a referendum to say, the way you were doing things in the past is not how we're going to do them right now. The voters have decided. And you have the media running with, is this a conspiracy? There's people saying it's a conspiracy. Now, I will say that the media in general, not including MSN and CNN, are all debunking that, saying, no, this was a shooting. Everyone was there. They saw it. They know. But you have the fringe lunatics running around and saying this was all staged, actors, and this is your base, Democrats. Those are your base people out there doing that. And your moderate Democrats are going, hey, you know what? I keep saying this. You guys, there's more sane Democrats than there are insane Democrats. And you have loyal Democrats and you have loyal Republicans that will just vote, their party line. They don't care what is being said. They don't care. But it's your moderates. And I'll call them the Reagan Democrats that make and break some of these elections. And people that go in and they go, they hear everything and they're not talking because they don't want an argument with people over their political beliefs, and they go in and they push the red lever. And then the Democrats, well, how could this happen? All the polls. Well, you're polling. When people are afraid because of the antics that the left has done, cancel, doxing, fake protesters in front of establishments, paid protesters, they don't want to take that risk. So they just quietly go into that voting booth and they ain't voting for you guys. And you can have all the money coming in from Soros and his son. Not going to help. Not going to help. The immigration fiasco has turned into fraud fiasco. Healthcare has turned into a fraud fiasco in California. And in Illinois is the next one that's going to be under investigation. And not because Trump has something against Pritzker. He does, but if there's fraud going on, there's fraud going on. It goes beyond the political aspect. It goes into criminal. And people just don't want to believe that. Well, they wouldn't have looked. Well, I'm not saying that could not be the case. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't criminal activity going on. If you choose not to look at it and address it, yeah, well, who knows then, right? Is that what you want? Is that what the Democrats are all about? Was it? Speak no evil, hear no evil, see no evil. I mean, don't know if I have that in the right order, but all three of those things are valid. The Democrats have lost their way. They might not have lost their vision. They want this utopia, and who doesn't want a utopia? But it's got to be practical. There's got to be a way to get there that I'm not taking away from other people. You could have an equal playing field if you make everyone dumb. You could have an equal playing field if you make everyone poor. Is that what you want? Is that making it equal? Sorry. Not in my book. Not the way I was brought up. And I was brought up to be fair, to be decent. That you can look at things objectively and say, all right, hey, you got the right idea, but you got the wrong approach to this. I know where you want to go with this, but the way you're getting, you're going to run into that wall and you're going to knock the wall down and you're going to do this. Well, have you ever thought about going around the wall? Or going over the wall? I mean, this going under the wall? I mean, there are ways. And this is not, the Democrats are not thinking that. They just are not thinking that. And I say this in my shows all the time. There are plenty of good Democrats out there. And when I say Democrat, I'm not talking about my neighbors or anyone else. I'm talking about those in elected positions. All right. I'm done with that 22 minutes, or 20 minutes of that. Ugh. Even I'm already tired of it. All right. Supreme Court ruled today that limits consideration of race in drawing up voting district maps. This is a biggie. States now must be careful in how they're making their voting district maps, that they don't collide with the federal. Now, I will say this, that states are allowed in the Constitution how things work in the voting scheme in their states. But what the federal supremacy clause comes down is to say that when federal law, you must comply as long as it doesn't cost you anything or manpower. And this is not going to cost manpower. This is just truly civil rights. That you can't create districts because of race. And really, in the simplest forms, and the simplest way to say this, is you have a square that should stay square, but now you divide it up and you have all these lines there, and now you can put representatives in each one, where before you only had one representative in there, now you have four. And what does that do? Gives you four more people in the House of Representatives, and this goes for red and this goes for blue. The Supreme Court says you cannot set it up by racial lines. This is about one person, one vote. Really is what it comes down to. And setting up representative lines is very important. And I get that. You want people that, in downstate New York, they need representatives because it's more population in areas. But to start carving them out and say, well, hold it now, the Bronx gets this and Queens get this, yet they're all part of the same map. That could be a problem because, well, there's Hispanic over there, they need representation, and the blacks need their own representation. You're not going to be able to do that now. You're not going to be able to do that. One person, one vote. Can't go by people's race, their religion, anything like that. You can't do it. Got to go by population. So that's a big win. Now, the Democrats are screaming that's a big win for Republicans. No, that's a big win for everyone. That's a big win for everyone. All right. That was the biggie, Supreme Court. There's a couple other rulings that are coming out. James Comey, former FBI director, fired, has been indicted for a second time. And this was for his 8646 posting. That he took a picture that he said he was walking and he found these seashells like this and he just stumbled across it and he took a picture and posted it. Anyone really believe that? I don't. I would have believed more if he was walking there and he goes, I found a gold doubloon from, Blackbeard the pirate. I'd go, wow, that's one lucky guy. But for him to walk and go right as the water tide and see that and stopped and decided to take a picture of it and post it, he's a liar. And he misled federal agents. And he posted that knowing that that could be used to influence someone. He could not be that stupid. Now, the first time there was a problem, they had to drop it, just like they had to do, James, the Attorney General, out of New York. Procedural issues. And procedural issues are very important. Are very, very important. And if they break those procedural issues, then your rights were violated. I get that, and I support that. They could be dead wrong, the people that did it, but if their rights were violated, then my rights get violated. And what have I been saying? The Constitution. So, if you're going to make charges against someone, mostly on a federal level and things of that nature, you better make sure you're right. Because there's no, give me a second chance here to do this. No, you don't get that. And you shouldn't get that. You get one bite of the apple. And that's it. So they feel that there's enough evidence to make the claim through an indictment. They got an indictment on him about that whole situation. And that will be for knowingly misleading federal agents or lying to them. More than likely, it will be much more easier for the state to say you were misleading than actual lying. Because, like, Martha Stewart never lied. But the FBI said she kind of misled them. Poetic justice, in a sense, for what they did to a general, right? Went in to talk to him like he's a good guy. And then screwed him over. Comey is a snake. And obviously, he's not a very smart snake. And they're going to get him. In that same vein, former CIA Director Brennan, who originally they had subpoenaed him and, to force him to come in and give a deposition and speak and be asked questions. The Department of Justice withdrew that. And now they're in negotiations with Brennan for a voluntary come in and talk to us. And if I was Brennan, I'd say, nope. Nope. Now, people in those positions are kind of required forever to make themselves available. So it gets a bit touchy. Where you and I, we had no affiliation. If you didn't have any affiliation with the government, different set of rules. They could then subpoena you to come in and give your side of the story, but they have to have a lot of reasons to do that. Now, Brennan, as part of his whole thing, was he agreed that you could come in and talk with us voluntarily. Now, he can elect not to. And they can ask him 3, 4, 5 times. And then subpoena him. I never thought that was a very wise idea, because now you have a hostile witness. And if you're trying to get information from that individual, he just takes the fifth. Now, you get him to do that in front of people, and they go, well, must have something to hide. Exercising your constitutional rights. Now, it goes to trial. Judge could say, you can, if you want. You're a jury. But the prosecution can't say, using your rights is an assumption that you're guilty. They can't do that. A jury can. Unless they're told not to. And that becomes a problem too. So. And so, I would say that they're squeezing. We haven't heard much from Clapper. And one of these 4 people, there's another person out there too. If there's anything bad that one hand was working with the other hand, conspiracy, one of them will break. They'll have it enough that they can get indictments and then really go take it to a trial. And when you get people this high up, you go for I'm making this offer to all of you. It's a one-time offer. All will be forgiven. But you must be truthful. Tell us what you know about the other guys. And the first one that comes to my door, they're in different rooms, and I'm in the fifth room or fourth room. And whoever comes to my door first with their lawyer to say, I'm willing to speak with you open and honestly, you get the deal. And 2 minutes later, one of the other guys come, so sorry. And that's what that's when you turn someone. Also known as a rat, but you turn someone. And the idea, in your head could be, you know what? By the grace of God, I got to that door first because I saw him coming down the hallway with his lawyer shuffling papers. And he would have ratted out on me. And that's the way it works. And that's what they're hoping to do. Shaking the tree and see what falls out sometimes works, but if you have evidence and you go, well, I'm going to connect the dots here. Now you tell me if these dots are not connecting right, because I'm going to give you a chance. But I'm connecting these dots, and I'm pretty good at connecting dots. So we'll see what happens with that. But Comey's just a dope. A dope. And they never expected Trump to win a second time. And that's what happens when you underestimate your enemy. All right. A little state news here. New York State Sheriff's Association is balking at Governor Hochul's immigration policy, which says that, you can't use. The state is forcing jurisdictions not to work with ICE or be a partner with ICE, and forbidding them. Well, that's not what the Constitution says, and it's voluntary. The 10th Amendment, there are words in there about the state. That states don't have to follow federal law, and that's up to a point. It's not that Mississippi wants to bring slavery back. No, the Supremacy Clause runs over that. But in the cases where a state has to use their own resources and manpower and money to manage a federal issue, well, the states don't have to do that. They could say no. But then the federal government then says, okay, we'll send our own agents in there and we'll do it. Where it got tricky is states, and local authorities stated, well, we don't have the jail space to hold these people. If you don't come for them immediately and we call you and you don't come immediately for them, I don't got the jail space. I don't have the money to feed 80 extra people that are here illegally, but, they ran a stop sign. They were speeding. And normally we'd just give them a ticket, a citation, and they pay the ticket, come to court. Now, when they don't come to court, and you have to have a bench warrant out for these individuals, then that goes into the criminal element, and that's different. But you have a lot of localities that won't even enforce that. They won't notify ICE, hey, we have this guy, we're holding him. Or you have a judge that turns around and goes, well, yeah, normally, you didn't answer your summons, 4 times. You're going to come back when we notify you the 5th time, right? And they cut them loose. And in the meantime, they have notified ICE, but this guy's already in the wind. Where if it was you or I, we'd have to make bond. We'd have to have a lawyer. Yeah. So this is the problem. And if a locality goes, no, we'll hold them, and we don't get money from the state to this is all local money. We're going to hold them, and if we decide to do it, the Constitution of the state, what does that say? So I think Hochul doing this in an election year, she's an idiot. And again, it comes down to law and order. And people are going to go, well, I want law and order. I want my children to be safe. I want my wife to be safe. I want to be safe. What's the problem? Well, we don't want to spend the money, but you'll spend the money to send them to school. You'll spend the money to give them health care. You'll spend the money to feed them. You'll spend the money to house them, but you're not going to spend the money to protect me. Right? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. So, all right, 42 minutes. I only wanted this 30 minutes. I blame the Democrats and Bob in New York. All right, everyone. I think I hit all my points here today. Crazy Democrats and their conspiracy theories. Supreme Court does a good job. James Comey is in trouble. New York State sheriffs are not supporting Hochul. And of course, the disgusting comments made by Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries, who, by the end of next week, will be throwing the race card down. You wait and see. You wait and see. All right, everyone, be safe, be well. Please give to a charity if you can give to a charity. That's wonderful. Just make sure that charity is on the up and up, and you don't become a victim trying to help victims. If you're not comfortable with that, please think about giving to a local food bank or charity that helps people in your locale. It's a nice thing to do. I realize that a lot of people go, they put themselves in, I'm just enabling them and stuff, but there are children involved in a lot of these situations, and they didn't do that. And I understand you have to be responsible for your actions, and, God makes it so you run into a wall and you get hurt for a reason. And if you try to put a pillow there for them, they don't learn anything from it. I get it. I understand that. But there's children, and far be it from me to judge. Give to a local food bank. They need food. They need money. Please say a prayer. Prayer does work, no matter what a Democrat tells you. And if you want to know why I say that, leave me a comment. Please always leave me a comment on the show. And a like if you liked it. If you didn't like it, thumbs down it and leave me a nasty comment. I'm all for it. Of course, subscribe so you always know when I'm leaving nasty or saying horribly wrong things and don't know what I'm talking about. You won't know that unless you subscribe. See? This is a non-monetized channel, so I don't care, But it does help the algorithm. So I can go out to more people who can tell me I'm wrong. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And till later, I might do a show later today. It depends on what starts happening. But I will be at Socrates Station in Socrates, South Carolina tonight. Local bar and grill. Excellent food. They're not a sponsor. But they are great people. And that's right off the 707 between Myrtle's Inlet and Myrtle Beach. Closer to Myrtle Beach than it is to Myrtle's Inlet. But it's right on the same road. 707, Socrates Station. Good food, good drink, good people. Lots of fun, and we don't talk politics there. Sports, which I know very little of. But it's a fun place to be, and we have a lot of fun there. So, all right, everyone. Be well, be safe. Again, Brother Rick, happy birthday. As I fade to black.